Hi, and welcome once again to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Wesley.
Today is July 20th, and please turn to page 57 in your magazines for a composition based on pictures exercise.
好，我们这次有一个看图写作的一个练习。
Our title is A Frightening Hike.
好，那我们的中文标题是白目自拍客啊，这个不是英文标题的翻译啊，因为 hike 其实是登山的意思。Yeah.
Right. And when I see this 自拍, I have an emotional reaction. I don't know about you.
Uh-huh.
Do you? It doesn't bother you?
Well, it does.
How do you feel?
I think a lot of people do selfies too much, I think.
Do you do selfies?
No.
I almost never have done a selfie.
Mm-hmm.
Pictures that I appear in that are selfies usually were taken by someone else.
Yeah.
Oh, Karen, let's have a picture together. And
Yeah,
then they put out
yeah.
their arm. When I see the word selfie in English and when I see 自拍in Chinese, I think, what a narcissist.
Yeah, 这个自恋selfie 就感觉很自恋那种感觉。
Narcissist.
Yeah, 不过这个是不同的文化啦。我觉得现在这种新的文化出现，但在我这个 generation， 其实我记得我成长的时候，照相机是有，大家都有，可是那个时候照相要洗底片的。好，所以一张我们就会非常 conscious 说，我现在这个是24张底片，所以我已经照了几张了。所以照相是一个你要决定一下的，就是好，这里这个值得照一张，你才会去照。但现在我觉得可能太方便了，手机啪啪啪啪一照，那看得不高兴的把它删掉，所以可能很多人就觉得这个就很习惯照相，然后慢慢就更习惯要照自己啊。那这个不同的文化。
Before, if we wanted to do that, we needed a tripod and a timer.Yeah,
以前如果要照自己的照片的话，要带三脚架哈，然后还要设定那个照相机。
Yeah, so when I see this, I think, man, the world isn't all about you. Just look at the world.
I was going to say that. 对啊，这个 the world isn't going to it's not about you all the time.
Yeah.
所以你不要觉得这个世界是以你自己为中心的。当然，我想很多一定会说，我拍自拍不表示世界以我为中心啊。那有的人他那么喜欢拍自拍
I'm not convinced.
Yeah, 我确定一定有些人他喜欢自拍，是因为他觉得你看我这么棒啊。那当你在自拍的时候，其实你就是以自己为中心，就是这个世界就是你跟你的照相机了。
All right, let's talk about a cultural difference, which may no longer be a cultural difference. But one thing I noticed is when I travel, I take pictures of scenery and cities and buildings and interesting things.
Yeah.
And Taiwanese will have a group picture in front of a place.
Yeah.
It's always of people, the people in the group. And I know who's in my travel group. I often have traveled with tour groups. I don't need 15 pictures of the 20 of us. One or two of those is enough. The rest, I'm in a new country. Man, it's India.
Yeah.
It's Mongolia. It's Siberia. I want to take pictures of where we are. I know the people in my group. So that was a very, very a cultural difference I discovered very early with Taiwanese.
So Americans don't do that?
I can't say they don't do it. It depends on the person. And maybe it's just me personally. But I have never been in the habit of, can you take a picture of me in front of this beautiful mountain? I just never, ever do that. And so Taiwanese think it's strange. And then they want me to take pictures of them in front of places. And I thought, why?
Yeah, 这个可能跟文化有关系，可能跟个性都有关系哈。我也是不太习惯说到哪里就我一定要在哪里之前照个相啊。所以我也是通常就是我就拿个照相机自己猛拍哈，就算跟家人出去也是一样，我觉得看到哪里好看我就拍。
Right.
Yeah.
So think about that one. Before you take all of these pictures with people in them, those are not the pictures that are going to go win an award for good photography. You would not submit those. I suppose you want to keep memories. 值得留回忆.
Yeah.
But if you want a beautiful picture, it's not going to be a bunch of people, wearing travel hats and carrying water bottles in front of a scene.Yeah,
所以这个其实有很多可以讨论的事情哈，像例如说这个照相哈，像我就知道有的人他可能照了很多很多相，可是后来可能突然之间离开这个世界了啊，那你去帮他整理的时候就会想说，他照这么多相，他要回忆要留回忆，可是他突然就走了。
Yeah.
对，那这些回忆就算说好，他可能活到90岁、100岁，我觉得活到90岁、100岁的人也不太会一天到晚拿出以前的照片来看。因为我觉得有的时候尤其你活到90几岁，你看以前的照片，我不知道 I don't know how you would feel， 然后你看到你的 younger self， 然后就觉得说我现在已经90几岁 so 那个可能不见得是一种很温暖的感觉。
Usually I'm surprised. I thought, oh my gosh, I used to be young.
Well, anyway, yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, don't just automatically take like 500 pictures of the people in your travel group on your trip in front of lakes and mountains and things. You know, just enjoy the place a little bit. This is a personal opinion. Okay, let's go to our instructions for this assignment.
好，所以提示部分他说，请你仔细观察以下3幅连环图片的内容啊，想象一下第4幅图片可能的发展，然后写出一篇涵盖每张图片内容而且结局完整的故事，文长至少120个单词啊。那在写作小站的部分，我们可以看到说啊，那看图作文呢，你要描述图片内容啊，所以你要注意看能不能描述一下图中人物的脸部表情啊、情绪啊、穿着啊、人物互动等等的，不是说这些通通都要写，而是你要看有什么东西可以写或者你会写的。好，然后呢，除了描述图中人物之外，还有你可以描述一下，大概想一下这个时间可能是什么时候啊，地点大概在哪里啊，那有了时间地点还有人，你大概就可以想象这个事件啊有什么资讯，你可以想一想这大概会发生在哪里，然后把它串接起来做一个描述。好，那一般来讲你可以把自己当作其中的一个图中的一个人，那就是这个第一人称来叙述。你也可以好像是旁观者啊，告诉别人一个故事，那这个时候就是第3人称来叙述。那不管你是用第一人称还是第3人称啊，不管你是不是图中的一个人，你都要记得要用想象力，用逻辑思考，逻辑很重要。好，所以你下笔之前也是一样，你要先想一想，你这个文章大概这个故事要怎么说啊？它的高潮在哪里？怎么结束？先想清楚。所以你要先想出一个合理的情节，也就是重点要分明，有开头，有发展，有结尾啊。然后呢，接下来在写的时候，你要注意一下，你可以用一些转折语来串联每一张图之间的关系啊。那转折语也可以帮助你这个故事的走向比较明确一点。不要天马行空的跳跃式的描述哈，不要先讲第3张图又回到第1张图，那又回到第2张图，好，那样子读者会读得头昏脑胀。好，那另外当然你还可以随着故事的发展，可以适度的对图中人的情绪多加着墨，这样的文章会更丰富。
All right, I'm going to throw in something it's not directly related, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I recently went to a talk by Li Siduan. And I used to watch him every day. It was like in the 80s, in the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
But then we didn't have a TV, so we got rid of the TV. But he said he will not watch himself on TV. And he's on TV a lot. He will not watch himself, he said. It's too自恋. That's one thing. Wow. And I heard a similar thing from a reporter named Steve Inskeep from NPR, as I remember. As soon as, his voice comes on the radio, like when they're traveling in the car, the kids say, Dad, change the station.
Yeah.
All right. This is just related to 自恋. Don't be too 自恋 is the lesson. We're going to go on now to our Chinese outline of our story.
好，那构思方向我们可以写说啊，这图片看看之后呢，你用描述文，我们可以决定用描述文来解读这个图片内容，你就想到底下可能这样的一个情节啊，你就想这个2个人呢，给他取个名字啊 ，Ian 跟 James 相约去爬山啊，2个人的第1张图就是在登山步道的起点汇合，然后呢就爬，然后呢到了某一个地方呢 ，Ian 看到这个悬崖，他就跨过围栏啊，因为很明显他跨过了围栏，跑去自拍，然后呢无视警告的这个标志，那 James 想要开口阻止，但是来不及了。那幸好呢，我们看到第3张图呢，这个Ian他跌进去是跌到这个悬崖下方的湖泊啊，所以还好。但是呢，你看这个在那里发抖，大概爬不起来，可能受伤了等等的啊，所以我们可以讲说啊，他保住了小命，但是受了伤，无法行走。好，所以呢，那怎么办呢？你看到这个James 他就在打电话求救啦。那故事结局是救难队找到了Ian跟 James， 那Ian也因为自己的这个白目行为而遭到斥责啊，那这一点其实我觉得很重要，这个细节很重要，就是这个是不对的。你很多人就是跑去登山去干嘛？就随便做一些，好也没有好好准备啊，然后可能就走一走啊，要脚痛啦，叫直升机来载我啊，好，那不载他还会发脾气啊，或者是。那我觉得这个都很奇怪，就是你要去登山，你自己要准备好，你不要浪费社会资源。Yeah.
Exactly. The rescuers will charge you. It's very expensive.
Yeah. 在国外，在台湾好像。
台湾 too.
Oh, really?
And they'll get really angry.
应该的。
Because you didn't prepare well. And don't ignore the signs. The signs are there for a reason.
Yeah.
That happened when I went to Yosemite in America as well, because there's a place where the water doesn't look scary, but it said, do not go into the water. You can be whirled away immediately by the water. It doesn't look dangerous, but it is dangerous.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the signs. They know what they're talking about.Whirl
就是漩涡哈，就是 WHIRL 啊，所以你可能就卷到漩涡里面就被卷走了哈。
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
所以要注意那个标示哈，那个标示不是无聊放在那边给你看到好玩的，也不是说用来吓你的。
That's right. It's real, and people died. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have put it there.
Yeah.
And also related to what I was saying about 自恋, all right, don't be a show-off.Yeah. Just don't be a show-off.
那就是不要太爱现。
Yeah.
这个我承认，我想大家也许有这种经验，有的人他可能就例如说这个有群组什么，他每天啊吃大餐啊就拍给你看啊，他去哪里玩啊就拍给你看。那其实我有一两个群组是这样，后来大家都不回了哈，因为大家都很辛苦的工作。那一个人很喜欢 show off 的人，他很好命，他不用工作。
Oh, no wonder.
Yeah, 然后还很有钱又不用工作，所以他到处去玩，然后到美国到处去拍照片，然后到处这是我们今天吃的东西。那大家看的话就觉得说，我们大家都要不像你那么好命，我们大家都辛苦的工作。虽然说不是说辛苦就是我们苦，就我们也很快乐的在工作，但是你这样子会让人家觉得你在献什么东西，真的是。
And it sounds like he's trying to fill in emptiness in his life because work gives us meaning.
Yeah, 因为工作其实会给我们人生意义哈。那他可能因为他不用工作，每天玩，那他的意义，他可能也觉得好像没什么意义，每天就是到处去玩，然后就吃东吃西，所以他就觉得好，那你们没有，那我就给你们看。
Yeah. What would our life be like without Ivy? We love Ivy.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a good time. All right, let's move on to 东东 now. This is the English version of the outline. So first of all, our 故事的设定. Our topic is a frightening hike. And our time and place are on a long weekend, Ivy Park, a cliff and a lake. And our characters are Ian and James.
好，那注意A long weekend 就是我们类似讲的这种长假，它通常是包含的周末了哈，所以这个周末连假，那注意呢介系词是 on 哈 ，on a long weekend 就是在一个周末的长假，然后在 Ivy Park， 然后呢有一个 cliff 有一个悬崖，然后还有一个湖。
Okay, so next we're going to go into our formal writing. So first of all, we have an introductory sentence, and that is Ian and James arranged to go hiking at Ivy Park on a long weekend.
Arranged to 就是安排去做某件事情，就是他们约好了去做这件事情啊，所以约好了去做这件事情，你也可以用 arrange 哈 ，arrange to。那 go hiking 就是去登山去爬山，那这个爬 hiking 啊，其实你说我们去爬阳明山，那个也是 hiking， 因为那个不要用 mountain climbing， 因为 mountain climbing 感觉起来是需要装备的。Yeah.
Although it does get pretty steep in places, and it's pretty tiring, I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
Parts of it.
对，阳明山有些地方还是最好是要稍微准备一下，但是最少不用带背包啊，穿钉鞋啊，那个不需要。
Right. Okay. And for our first picture, we're going to write, they met up at the start of the main trail.
好，所以 met up 就是碰面啊。那碰面英文常常会有一个 up 在 met up.
That's right. You could say they met at the start of the main trail is okay, but met up, that means 真的碰到面。
所以要加一个 up 比较好啊。然后呢，在哪里呢 ？at 指地点嘛，他们碰面的地点是 the start of the main trail 啊，主要的那个登山步道的起点 start 在这里是名词。
Picture 2. Despite the warning sign in the fence, Ian rushed to the edge of the cliff to take a selfie. He didn't realize he was backing up too far and therefore fell off the cliff. James was horrified.
这意外常常就是这样发生的。你在拍照片的时候不一定是 selfie 啦，反正你可能一直退，就不小心就掉到悬崖底下去了。
得意忘形。
Yeah， 所以各位不要觉得不会发生。这其实我们看过很多影片，真的就是他就是这样掉下去了。
Yeah, and sometimes it's slippery.
对，有的时候其实地面会滑，slippery。好，那我们看到这个句子，他说 despite 就是尽管，也就是他不管有这个 warning sign 有这个警告标志 warning sign， 还有呢 the fence， 甚至于还有围栏他都不管，他就 rushed to the edge of the cliff， 而且是冲过去，那也很危险。那个 edge of the cliff， 那个就是悬崖的边边 ，edge 就是边缘。好，那悬崖的边你还用冲的，不小心刹不住车怎么办啊？所以他显然是个很不小心的人所以 rushed to the edge of the cliff， 然后他目的是要 to take a selfie 要照自拍，自拍动词用的是 take， 跟 take a picture 一样take a selfie。He didn't realize 他不知道 he was backing up too far， 他往后退，他退太远，他并不知道这件事情，所以呢他就 fell off the cliff 啊，注意 fell off the cliff 这样就可以了哈，你不用再讲 down 啊什么的哈，因为你掉下去就是掉下去了嘛哈 fell off the cliff。So
he wasn't careful, but he was still alive. That surprises me.
Yeah, 所以他不小心，但是后来还是活的，不容易哈。不管怎么说，当他这个 James 看到他掉下去的时候呢，哇，他当然是 horrified， 他真的吓坏了。各位可以想象，如果是你的话，你也吓坏了，看着你的朋友往后退，突然之间人不见了。Yeah.
Right. We have a common saying now when people behave like this. We say, well, there's somebody else removed from the gene pool.Oh. There's somebody else removed from the gene pool. Okay, gene, they're talking about 基因.
Yeah.
They're talking about what we pass on to our children. And normally, if a behavior is successful, we survive, so we often pass it on to our children. However, if you do really stupid things, you tend to be removed from the gene pool.
就是你没有办法传宗接代了。
Exactly.
你的基因传不下去了，你被从这个 gene pool 里面被拿出来了，因为你自己这样不小心这个小命送掉了。
You did something too stupid.
Yeah.
And so you will often find this in the Western media when people do something really stupid that has very serious consequences. For picture 3, luckily Ian landed in a lake and survived, but he was wounded, so James had no choice but to call for help.
好，那还好他 landed 就他降落哈，他落在一个湖里面，然后 survived 他活下来了，没有死哈。但是呢，他 wounded 受伤了啊，所以呢 James had no choice but to 这个当然应该很熟的哈 have no choice but to do something 啊，那有一个 to 所以后面是个原形动词 call for help 这也是一样，各位把它背起来 call for help 就是求救的意思啊，不一定打电话，但是也可以表示打电话。
Okay, and our concluding sentence, that day he learned that recklessness can get you into trouble.
Recklessness 就是鲁莽啊，轻率，不顾后果啊。它其实指的就是那种你不顾危险、不顾后果啊，那去做一件事情啊。那像这个reckless 这个字很重要。像在美国，你如果说我记得有我同朋友跟我讲过，你上高速公路如果一下子换车道换超过2条的话，就可能被拦下来，他就会说你这是 reckless driving.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's where you see it probably most often is reckless driving. Okay, here is our model composition. Ian and James arranged to go hiking at Ivy Park on a long weekend. They decided to meet up at the start of the main trail. The friends started up the mountain path and arrived at a scenic spot where there was a cliff overlooking a beautiful lake. Ignoring the warning sign, Ian jumped over the fence, ran towards the edge of the cliff, and took out his smartphone to take a selfie. Just as James was about to warn Ian to be careful, his friend backed up too far and fell off the cliff. James was in a panic, thinking Ian had fallen to his death. He ran quickly down the trail. To his great relief, James saw Ian swimming slowly in the lake. Fortunately, the cliff was not high, and Ian had landed in the clear blue water. Ian was mildly injured and unable to walk, so James decided to call for help. When the rescue team found them, Ian was scolded for not heeding the warning. That day, he learned that recklessness can get you into trouble. Back to the beginning. Ian and James arranged to go hiking at Ivy Park on a long weekend.
这个句子我们看过了。
They decided to meet up at the start of the main trail.
这个句子我们也差不多看过了。Yeah.
The friends started up the mountain path and arrived at a scenic spot where there was a cliff overlooking a beautiful lake.
好 ，the friends 就指这两个人啊，他们 started， 他们开始 up 就是往上走。好 ，the mountain path 就是这个山路哈 ，path 就是一个山这个道路了哈，它通常没有铺柏油的哈，一个 path
就步道了。
Yeah， 就是一个步道。好，然后呢 ，and arrived at 他们到达了一个点，那个点是一个 a scenic spot， 就是一个景点 ，where 就是表示在这个景点呢有一个 cliff， 有一个悬崖，这个悬崖是 overlooking a beautiful lake， 就是俯瞰，这个悬崖可以俯瞰一个很美的湖。
俯瞰 is a really nice word. Ignoring the warning sign, Ian jumped over the fence, ran towards the edge of the cliff, and took out his smartphone to take a selfie.
好 ，ignoring 就是他不顾这个警告标志，他 jumped over the fence， 然后这第一个动作，第二个动作 ran towards the edge of the cliff， 就跑到了那个悬崖的边边，然后第三个动作 took out his smartphone， 拿出他的智慧型手机，目的是要 to take a selfie， 拿出来要照相。
Just as James was about to warn Ian to be careful, his friend backed up too far and fell off the cliff.
just as 就正当，好，正当 James was about to， 正要怎样的时候叫做 was about to， 所以当 James 正要 warn 警告 Ian， 警告他干嘛呢？ To be careful， 要小心啊。正在这个时候呢 his friend 就是指 Ian backed up too far， 就是这个往后退太多了，就 fell off the cliff， 就掉下去了。
James was in a panic, thinking Ian had fallen to his death.
好，所以 James was in a panic， 就他很慌张很紧张哈 ，in a panic 就是他整个人都慌掉了，认为因为他以为 thinking， 他以为 Ian had fallen to his death， 就是他摔死了 ，to fall to someone's death 就是摔死了。
He ran quickly down the trail.
他很快的往下走，顺着这个 trail 也是一个 path 啊，就顺着步道往下走。
To his great relief, James saw Ian swimming slowly in the lake.
幸好to his great relief， 他看到 Ian swimming 那感官动词 see 后面加受词，那后面可以再加个 VING， 表示看到这个受词正在做这件事情，所以他看到 Ian 正在游泳但是游得很慢 in the lake。
Fortunately, the cliff was not too high, and Ian had landed in the clear blue water.
好，所幸的是这个悬崖并不高然后呢 Ian 他掉进了这个 clear blue water， 在英文里面也是常见的一个 collocation 就是这个清清的很清澈的蓝色的水里面。
Ian was mildly injured and unable to walk, so James decided to call for help.
好，所以 Ian was mildly injured， 就受了轻伤，叫做 mildly injured， 你也可以说 slightly injured 就受了轻伤。那重伤就是 badly injured或者 seriously injured 都可以好，所以呢他受了一点轻伤，然后呢 unable to walk， 他不能走路了。好，所以呢 James 决定要 call for help。
When the rescue team found them, Ian was scolded for not heeding the warning.
To be scolded for something for not doing something， 就是为了什么事情挨骂了，所以 Ian 挨骂了为什么呢？因为他没有 heeding the warning， heed 就是注意， to pay careful attention to 的意思，
And
通常
obeying
的意思而且通常就是别人的 advice 或者别人的 warning 你没有 heed 它这个及物动词，所以他没有 heed the warning， 他没有注意到警告标志，
没有遵从，没有听从
yeah。
That day, he learned that recklessness can get you into trouble.
所以在那一天呢，他学会了就是你鲁莽行事呢，可能会让你 get into trouble， 会让你惹上麻烦，或者让你变得这个处于一个险境。
Of course, human safety is the most important, but I was wondering, I wonder what happened to his phone.
That's a good question. 那他的这个手机不知道怎么样了。Yeah.
Okay, that's it for today. Tune in next time. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.